Lewis Hamilton's 2007 rookie season wasn't just impressive, it was straight up the most absurd debut season in Formula One history. Think about it. A 22-year-old with zero F1 race experience steps into a top team, delivers immediately, takes on a reigning double world champion teammate, and beats him, all while nearly winning the entire championship in his first year. This is the kind of thing that shouldn't be possible. It's the equivalent of Kimi Antonelli debuting at Red Bull alongside Verstappen, the reigning double world champion at the time, and then outperforming him across the season, matching his podiums, even finishing ahead of him in the standings, and missing out on the championship by just a single point. That's how ludicrous Hamilton's 2007 was, but let's break it all down because the more you analyze it, the crazier it gets. Firstly, let's talk about expectations. Most rookies start their careers at the back of the grid, learning the ropes in midfield or backmarker teams. Hamilton? He was thrown straight into McLaren, a team expected to fight for wins and championships. That alone is unheard of. The last time we saw something remotely similar was Jacques Villeneuve in 1996, but even he wasn't facing a prime Fernando Alonso as his teammate. Alonso had just won back-to-back titles, ended Schumacher's reign, and was considered the absolute best driver on the grid at the time. His move to McLaren was meant to be his Schumacher-Ferrari era moment, where he'd build a dynasty. Enter Lewis Hamilton. McLaren expected him to be quick, but he was supposed to be the clear number two, learning from Alonso while supporting the team's championship bid. Instead, from the first race, Hamilton was matching, if not outperforming, the reigning double world champion. Hamilton's debut race in Australia, third place, podium. Next race in Malaysia, another podium. Third race in Bahrain, another podium. 4 races into the season, Hamilton was leading the championship. Do you realize how insane that is? This is not normal. This defies logic. But that's exactly what Lewis Hamilton did that season. And what made it even more impressive? Hamilton was not just quick, he was metronomically consistent. In his first 9 races in F1, he finished on the podium in every single one. To this day, no rookie has ever done that, let alone scoring points in their first 9 consecutive races. Not Schumacher, not Senna, not Verstappen when he burst onto the scene, and then Lewis started winning. Canada and the USA saw him take 2 back-to-back victories. At this point, it was no longer a great rookie season. It was becoming an all-time legendary season. The most underrated part of this season isn't just how good Hamilton was, it's how much he mentally broke Fernando Alonso. Alonso expected to be the undisputed team leader at McLaren. Instead, by mid-season, he was in an equal fight with a rookie, and he could not handle it. Alonso started believing McLaren was sabotaging him. He genuinely convinced himself that the team, who had just signed him on a multi-year deal, was favoring a rookie over a double world champion. And that paranoia, it boiled over. In Hungary 2007, Alonso deliberately held up Hamilton in the pit lane to stop him from getting pole. Then came Spygate, where Alonso threatened to leak McLaren's secrets unless they backed him as the number 1 driver. The McLaren garage became so toxic that Alonso completely imploded, burned bridges, and left the team after just 1 season. This was one of the greatest psychological breakdowns in F1 history, and it was triggered by a rookie. Let that sink in. By the end of the season, Hamilton was still in the lead of the championship. With 2 races to go, he was 12 points ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. In today's scoring, that's like a 30-plus point lead with 2 races left. But then, well, what I believe to be punishment for the Spygate scandal against McLaren happened. F1 and the FIA couldn't have had McLaren win the driver's title with either drivers given what happened with that massive legal fiasco. And thus I think it's pretty obvious to many that despite deserving to, that Lewis wasn't going to win the championship in his rookie year. In China 2007, McLaren left Hamilton out on worn tires. He slid into the gravel and got beached. 0 points. Then in Brazil, a gearbox glitch early in the race left Hamilton out of contention. Just 1 more point, 1 single extra point across the entire season, and Hamilton would have been the first ever rookie world champion. And yet, despite everything, Hamilton still finished ahead of Alonso in the standings. A rookie, in his first ever F1 season, beat a reigning double world champion in the same car. That is humiliating for Alonso, and for whatever reason, nobody talks about it enough. But here's the thing. Hamilton's 2007 season didn't just redefine what was possible for an F1 rookie. It fundamentally changed how young drivers were perceived in the sport. Before Hamilton, rookies were expected to serve long apprenticeships, gradually working their way up the grid. A debut season wasn't about fighting for wins, let alone the championship. It was about survival, about learning the ropes, about slowly proving yourself worthy of a top seat. Even some of the greatest names in F1 history, Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, and Alain Prost, had to go through that process. None of them arrived and immediately shook the sport to its core the way Hamilton did. Before 2007, the idea of a rookie stepping into a top team and immediately going toe-to-toe with an established world champion was almost unthinkable. Even the best young talents needed years to reach that level. But then, Hamilton came in, and within a handful of races, he wasn't just keeping up with Fernando Alonso, he was beating him. The reigning double world champion, a driver who had just dethroned Schumacher and was widely considered the best on the grid at the time. And Hamilton wasn't doing this with the occasional lucky result. He was consistently outperforming Alonso, racking up podiums, leading the championship, and making it abundantly clear that he belonged at the very top of the sport from day one. After 2007, the entire landscape of F1's approach to young drivers shifted forever. Teams started looking at rookies differently. Suddenly, the idea of throwing a young driver straight into a top car wasn't seen as a gamble. It was seen as a potential masterstroke. Red Bull's entire junior program, designed to unearth and develop the next Verstappen, was indirectly validated by Hamilton's success. Mercedes later built their entire driver development strategy around the concept that young talent, when given the right environment, could immediately deliver at the highest level. Would Charles Leclerc have been promoted to Ferrari in just his second season? Would Max Verstappen have been thrown into Red Bull at 18? Before Hamilton, that wasn't the playbook. Teams were cautious, preferring to let young drivers serve their time in midfield teams before trusting them with a championship contending seat. But Hamilton's success changed the game. It proved that, in the right circumstances, a generational talent didn't need years to prove themselves. They could arrive and immediately shake up the established order. And let's talk about the sheer talent gap Hamilton exposed that season. People often forget this, but McLaren wasn't the only team with a highly rated rookie in 2007. Renault had Heikki Kovalainen, another driver who came into F1 with significant hype. Kovalainen had a much more traditional rookie season, some solid performances, a few flashes of brilliance, but ultimately a learning year. That was what a good rookie season looked like before Hamilton. Meanwhile, Hamilton was out there making a prime Fernando Alonso look second-rate. That's the level we're talking about, the level of a driver who wasn't just another promising talent. He was something entirely different. Even the way Hamilton lost the title in 2007 speaks to how absurdly high the standards were for him. If any other rookie in history had finished second in the championship by a single point, we'd be calling it an all-time great achievement. But because it was Hamilton, it's spoken about as a missed opportunity rather than a mind-blowing feat. The reality: he should have been world champion in his first year. McLaren's own strategic errors, Spygate politics, and some extremely questionable circumstances in those final races denied him what should have been a history-making rookie title. Let's not forget that it wasn't just Hamilton versus Alonso in 2007. It was Hamilton versus the entire political storm surrounding McLaren. The team was in the middle of one of the biggest scandals in F1 history, Spygate, which created massive tensions between the drivers, the team, and the FIA. There were moments where McLaren's decision-making looked outright suspicious, where you have to ask, was there something bigger at play? Were they trying to keep Hamilton from winning the title to protect their already fragile standing in the sport? Whether it was pit stop blunders, strategy calls, or tyre issues in those final two races, you can't help but wonder how different things would have been without all that chaos in the background. And this is what makes Hamilton's legacy even greater. Unlike so many other drivers who peaked early and faded, Hamilton used 2007 as a launchpad. He came back in 2008 and won the title, this time overcoming both Ferrari and the FIA's constant meddling. He then spent over a decade rewriting the F1 record books, proving that his rookie season wasn't just a fluke, but the opening chapter in the greatest career the sport has ever seen. And now, he's embarking on yet another iconic chapter in his storied career, with him now being a Ferrari driver and aiming to create even more success with the Scuderia. When people debate Hamilton's GOAT status, they often focus on his Mercedes dominance, the wins, the records, the titles. But the true believers, they know the story started in 2007. It was the year he broke the rules of what was possible for an F1 rookie. The year he went wheel to wheel with the reigning double world champion in equal machinery and came out on top. The year he should have been world champion, and most importantly, it was the year that showed the world. Lewis Hamilton wasn't just another talented driver. He was something else entirely. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments, where do you rank Hamilton's 2007 rookie season? And do you think we'll ever see anything like it again? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more F1 content.